Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining us from the United Nations General Assembly here in New York. My name is Francine Harrigan. I work for the United Nations Department of Public Information. We have a busy day here today with events on education for all and the launch of the Spotlight Initiative on ending violence against women and girls, among many others. You can view both events live on UN Web TV. We'll also have speakers from both events here in the zone later today, including our next guest. So please be sure to join us for those as well. But first, it's my pleasure to hand the floor to Maher Nasser, Director of the Outreach Division in the Department of Public Information, who will introduce our next session on gender and our special guest. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Francine, and I'm very honored and pleased to welcome you here and welcome our special guest, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. I think he does not need much introduction unless you have not been watching the one of the biggest TV series in recent history. So, Nikolaj, I know that a year ago you were designated and appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UNDP.
Yeah, I was here a year ago, just before it all opened, when it was empty. I got a tour around. It was very cool.
And you chose, of all the issues that UNDP works on...
Yeah, well, the thing was I am a Goodwill Ambassador for the UNDP, and the focus is to raise awareness of the 17 global goals. And then 17 is a lot, and I thought, well, maybe I can focus on 2 that I feel I have more of a story to tell about. And then I chose, climate action. My wife's from Greenland, and my kids that are here today are from Greenland. So, and in Greenland, of course, you see the effects. You see the receding glaciers, and also there is that big block of ice up there that we would like to stay up there. So I thought there was a story to tell. Of course, I have 2 daughters. I grew up surrounded by women. Gender equality is crucial. It's very important to me. So I picked that as the 2 topics I wanted to focus on.
Mm-hmm. So within those 2 areas, you dedicated recently 1 whole month for climate action. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the issues that you explored and you did yourself, and what other people can do to have an impact on the issue?
Well, the whole thing I do is to use whatever, the success of this television show, and then maybe use that spotlight and direct it to something a little more important. I think my job is important, but it's nothing compared to the future of our world. And the people that really do great work in the UNDP, they need the attention, because everybody needs to understand the potential we have in this world, but also the responsibility we have for the future generations. So with the little thing there was another way to just raise awareness. We raised some money as well, which is always good. But my main objective is always just to direct traffic so people can educate themselves about these global goals, because I think it's such an amazing idea. And with climate action, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because you talk about most of the other goals, and you don't find anyone disagreeing that we want to end hunger. Mm-hmm. It's and you don't. I mean, education for all is we can all agree on a clean water, clean air. But for some reason, this thing with climate action is a little contentious, which doesn't make sense to me, because it's a fact.
There are vested interests, industries.
No, I understand that, but it's still it still is mind-boggling, because I always go, yeah, I understand that, but just consider for a second that, for the one who, if you don't believe in this, fair enough. If you don't believe, that's your choice, but just, you have to entertain the notion that maybe you're wrong.
And
what if you're wrong?
As the Secretary General said, you have to look at climate action as an opportunity for investment. When you look at green economies, there's more potential in that than in fossil fuels. Yes.
No, absolutely. And I understand the politics. Understand that it's not just about go green. It has to there has to be a connection to how do you finance this and how that is very important. But the fact that to even question that the planet is heating up is ridiculous at this point, and it's dangerous, because we all know there's a tipping point. some people think we might have reached it already, but if we can keep it below 2 Celsius, we have a great chance to be able to control this. If not, it's a whole different story. Now, but what can we do? I mean, for me, it's about, because it's a global situation. We all have a responsibility. We all have, ways that we can make this happen. And of course, the most important thing is that we have elected officials, and we have to elect the right ones, the ones that want to make a difference.
And moving on from climate change,
yes.
Your Care to petition, you appealed to fathers to look into the issue of gender equality. You mentioned you have. Well,
that's another thing. I mean, you have the population of this world. I mean, that's the thing. A year ago, I thought I was fairly well informed. And then I've learned a lot over the last year, and when it comes to gender equality, I was shocked. And maybe, probably because I live in a country where we have a fairly high level of equality in Denmark. Some basic facts, like more than 150 countries have legislation that discriminates against women. You just go, what? That doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense because in the countries where women are empowered, these countries do very well. It just makes sense. We have to achieve these goals. We need everyone to take part. We need half the population, and also apart from that, we all support human rights, and equality is the most basic human rights.
And I think research has shown that when women are actually given equal rights economically, economies grow, and there's like missing $12 trillion.
No, there's no reason not to do it. I mean, and if you want to be like very, just look at the financial facts, yes, it makes sense. If that's the most important decision maker, yes, it shouldn't be, in my opinion, because this is about human rights. It's about, I want everyone to experience the same respect and the same rights that I do. I mean, otherwise, it's going to be,
And I understand this afternoon you're moderating an event with Malala and her father, which is...
There was another thing where, it's all about information. It's about, we all have to educate ourselves. But when I learned that 1 in 3 of women in the world, 1 in 3 will experience violence and or sexual assault in their lifetime. That's, and it's not, it's everywhere, in every continent, in every country. And I think, how many in here know someone who's experienced an assault, a woman? Yeah, so it's more or less everyone in here. It's crazy. And then that's not acceptable. I mean, obviously, I have 2 teenage daughters. It scares the shit out of me to think about this. But we have to really do better when we raise our boys to understand that you can't do that. That's a no-go. I mean, I had a niece myself who was out, with a friend, and then suddenly someone tried to she got a date drug and a drink. She got to the hospital. But still, that, like an 18-year-old boy, think that's a great way to chat up a girl. I mean, that's insane.
I mean, just for background, the initiative that will be launched this afternoon by the Secretary General, it's called Spotlight, and it's an EU-UN initiative where the EU has put up 500 million euros to tackle the issue of violence against women and girls. I mean, that's a first step. I think 500 million is an incredible amount, but I think other countries need to step and...
Yeah, well, again, all these solutions are global, and again, it goes back to basic human rights. You cannot lay a hand on me because that's you just can't. And women and men are equal. There are still more than 600 million women who live in countries where they are kind of the property of their man. If their husband beats them up, he won't be prosecuted. That's like 1.2 billion people who live in countries where that's okay. That has to change. I mean, and I know, it's easy to be outraged, and what do you do? And I think the initiative that the EU has launched with the UN is an amazing step. And it's something that has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed in schools. It's about educating the new generation.
But young people, and today we live in a world with 1.8 billion young people, the largest generation of youth the world has ever known. And they get impressions, and they are basically also trying to imitate what's in the entertainment world, in the creative industry. So do you think there's a higher responsibility for the creative industry, both the productions and the way they portray maybe women and girls and the issue of violence, and how can
No, I think we all have a responsibility, and it's funny because it's a fine balance, because you also, you want to, if you do a work of art, you also want to reflect the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to censor, what you do, because we can't show rape because that sends a wrong signal. Well, it's still unfortunately a big part of the world we live in. Now, it's the question of how you do these things.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe we have a responsibility, and it's an ongoing discussion and how much you do. Violence. It's funny how I've always it's always surprised me how sometimes using a word can change the rating of a movie, but you can kill 1,000 people and blow them to bits, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, we have some twisted ideas of what's damaging to kids, I think.
Mm-hmm. And just to ask, going back to this afternoon,
Yes.
Have you met Malala before?
No, I'm very excited. I mean, to be honest, it's just exciting. I hope I don't mess up her last name. That's the big worry. But
Malala Yousafzai.
Yousafzai.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I've been asking around. They go, yes, Yousafzai, and they go, come on, no, it's just Malala. Yeah, I know, but I'm supposed to say her last name.
I think her father's name is more difficult.
Yeah, I'm also going to say that. So.
But I mean, this is one of the amazing inspirational stories. A young girl, 15 years old, who was out against one of the most horrific.
Well, both of them. I think it's absolutely. I mean, what she experienced, and to rise up above that, and to keep fighting when someone almost killed her. It's so inspiring, and there's a reason why she's the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate, for sure. I can't wait to meet her father, and because I think that's interesting to hear what his experience was like, because I do believe you have to credit him as well.
And actually, that's a very important point, the role of the father and the mother as well. But I mean, because of the issue of gender equality, I think fathers can play the same role.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're a father. I'm a father of 3. I have 2 daughters and 1 son. And I always say, whatever I will allow my son, I will allow my daughter.
Good.
And I think that's how it should be.
Yes. No, absolutely.
Yep.
No, I grew up with the 2 older sisters and my mother, and then now I have, my wife and 2 daughters. We have 2 dogs. They're all girls. I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous, to be honest. But so for me, I don't think I was ever treated any different because I was a boy. I mean, because boys and girls, they're different. That's part of who we are. You don't have to change the way you raise us in it. And then you still see that whole thing. That it's easier for boys in many homes to get away with doing less of the house chores than the girls. And already there you're setting a standard. You're telling your boys, you don't have to do that. Just leave that to the girls.
And outside the house, unfortunately, women still, on average, are paid 23% less than men.
Yeah. That's everywhere.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, Nikolaj, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
It's been great having you, and good luck with the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.